We all know that sudden, inexplicable knot in the stomach, the racing heart, the sweaty palms, the feeling that something's about to go wrong. That, my friends, is anxiety making its grand entrance. But what exactly is anxiety? Is it merely worry? Or is there a vast, intricate world of biology, cognition, and emotion at play beneath the surface? Let's follow Mia's journey from her first midnight panic in the library to mastering the science behind anxiety and the tools that helped her reclaim her calm. Mia, a junior at State University, had always prided herself on balancing a full course load, a part-time job at the campus cafe, and a healthy social life. Finals week didn't intimidate her, and she tackled group presentations with ease. Until one late-night study session in the library, surrounded by open textbooks and the hum of fluorescent lights, she felt her chest tighten. She'd been cramming for her organic chemistry exam until 2:34 a.m., when her vision tunneled and her pulse thundered in her ears. Every page she read blurred. Thoughts flooded. What if I fail? What if I blank during the exam? What if I pass out right here? Panicked, she abandoned her notes and stumbled into the hallway. Leaning against a cool brick wall, Mia pressed her forehead to the course surface, willing her breathing to slow down. The overhead lights felt like spotlights, every distant footstep magnified. It took 10 minutes for the wave of terror to pass. Exhausted and trembling, she finally made it back to her dorm room, only to find sleep impossible. That night, unable to rest, Mia scrolled through student forums and mental health blogs, hunting for someone else who'd described that same crushing surge of fear. She learned that nearly 1 in 5 people worldwide experience a sudden, overwhelming surge of fear like hers. She read about fight or flight hijacks, about chemical cascades, about how the body can mistake an exam for a life or death threat. For the first time, her terror had a name, a panic attack rooted in anxiety. Determined to understand and regain control, she emailed the campus counseling center that morning and booked the earliest appointment. Walking into the counselor's office later that week, Mia felt exposed and vulnerable, but also hopeful. If she could learn why her own mind turned on her in the middle of the night, maybe she could reclaim her focus and her peace of mind before the first final even began. Anxiety is, at its core, an ancient survival mechanism, our built-in smoke detector. When you perceive a threat, the amygdala, a small almond-shaped region in the brain, sounds the alarm. It signals the hypothalamus, which kicks the sympathetic nervous system into high gear. This triggers the adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol, flooding your system with energy to run, fight, or freeze. Adrenaline accelerates your heartbeat, raises your blood pressure, and directs blood flow to your muscles. Cortisol heightens your senses and sharpens your memory, so you never forget the details of the threat you faced. In prehistoric times, this cascade saved lives in the savannah. Today, it fires at modern stressors, traffic jams, stressful emails, or midnight study marathons. When the threat vanishes, the parasympathetic nervous system should normally restore balance, slowing down the heartbeat and relaxing the muscles. But in chronic anxiety, this system stays on high alert. Neurons in the amygdala grow more sensitive. The threshold for danger lowers. Over time, everyday challenges trigger disproportionate hormonal releases. On a chemical level, anxiety is influenced by neurotransmitters like GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, which inhibits neural excitation. Low GABA activity means less braking power on runaway thoughts. Serotonin and norepinephrine modulate mood and arousal. Imbalances here can magnify worry and agitation. Furthermore, chronic stress alters brain structures. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought, can shrink while the amygdala can enlarge, tipping the scales further toward fear responses. Researchers have also identified genetic factors that predispose some individuals to anxiety disorders. Variations in genes regulating the HPA axis, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, can make the stress response more reactive. Epigenetic changes, how experiences switch genes on or off, mean that prolonged academic pressure or early childhood stress can leave a lasting imprint on one's anxiety levels. In Mia's first session, the counselor sketched the brain's alarm circuit on a whiteboard. As she traced each connection, from amygdala to hypothalamus to adrenal glands, Mia realized anxiety wasn't all in her head, dismissively. It was a clearly defined biological response. This insight shifted her perspective. Instead of a personal flaw, anxiety became a solvable problem with identifiable points of intervention. Not all anxiety presents the same way. Clinicians recognize several distinct disorders, each with their own criteria and treatment protocols. For Mia, what started as a sudden panic attack eventually led her to learn about the broader spectrum. Generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, often shows up as chronic, unshakable worry across multiple areas, grades, finances, friendships, that lingers for at least 6 months. It brings physical symptoms too: constant restlessness, muscle tension, irritability, and sleepless nights. Panic disorder, by contrast, is marked by intense, unexpected surges of fear. Panic attacks that seem to come out of nowhere. They peak within minutes but leave behind lingering dread about when the next one might hit, which can lead to avoidance behaviors that shrink one's world. Social anxiety disorder targets interactions, presenting in class, speaking up in group projects, or even walking into the dining hall. Is the fear of being watched, judged, or embarrassed often powerful enough to lead people to skip events altogether? Specific phobias zoom in on particular fears: heights, needles, public speaking, that feel wildly out of proportion to the actual risk but still trigger real physical responses and avoidance. Agoraphobia can grow quietly alongside panic disorder. It's the anxiety about being in situations where escape feels hard or help seems far away, lecture halls, crowded buses, even campus itself, until sometimes people stop leaving their rooms altogether. And then there's separation anxiety disorder. Once thought of as something only kids experienced, it's now recognized in adults too, showing up as intense discomfort when away from family, a partner, or even a pet, making transitions like starting college especially difficult. Each of these variations may wear a different mask, but they share a common thread. They're deeply human responses to perceived threat, and all of them are treatable. Anxiety rarely stays confined to the mind or body. It ripples outward, affecting academics, relationships, and self-esteem. Mia's panic attacks made group study sessions torturous. She requested solo assignments, which limited her collaboration opportunities. The toll on her grades and confidence was subtle but cumulative. Socially, she declined invites to dorm movie nights and weekend outings, worried about feeling trapped in crowded spaces. Friends thought she was overwhelmed by exams. Family worried she was depressed. She felt isolated, reluctant to share the truth, that she feared her own heartbeat. Emotionally, anxiety breeds negative self-talk. I'm not cut out for this. They all think I'm weird. I can't handle college. Over time, this eroded her self-esteem, fueling a vicious cycle. Low confidence led to more anxiety, which deepened self-doubt. Sleepless nights compounded fatigue, worsening irritability and concentration. Physically, chronic anxiety increases risks for cardiovascular issues, gastrointestinal problems like irritable bowel, and weakened immune function. Research shows that long-term cortisol elevation can impair memory and even accelerate cellular aging. In Mia's journal, she scribbled, "Missed another quiz. I'm failing at life." Through therapy, she learned to track these patterns, to see anxiety's footprints across different facets of her life. This holistic awareness was the first step toward reclaiming control. The good news is that anxiety's root mechanisms reveal clear intervention targets. Mia's treatment plan combined multiple approaches, each targeting a different aspect of her stress response. She began with cognitive behavioral therapy, learning to spot and question her automatic negative thoughts, those catastrophizing moments, and gradually replace them with more balanced perspectives. In parallel, she engaged in exposure work, starting with small, manageable challenges like mock quizzes or brief study sessions with friends. She practiced relaxation techniques until those once terrifying situations felt far less menacing. Each morning, Mia set aside 5 minutes for a simple mindfulness exercise, focusing on her breath and the sensations of the present moment to retrain her neural pathways, strengthening the brain's rational centers while soothing the alarmed amygdala. When panic threatened, she used diaphragmatic breathing and progressive muscle relaxation, inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 2, and exhaling for 6, to instantly engage her parasympathetic system and quiet the fight or flight response. Outside of therapy sessions, Mia optimized her lifestyle. She jogged around campus twice a week, boosting endorphins and promoting neurogenesis in her hippocampus. She established a consistent sleep routine, screens off an hour before bed and a cool, dark room, to support deep, restorative rest. And she tweaked her diet, favoring whole grains, lean proteins, omega-3s, magnesium, and B vitamins, while cutting back on caffeine and alcohol to avoid unnecessary nervous system triggers. Under her doctor's guidance, she also tried a course of an SSRI medicine, which helped rebalance her long-term mood regulation, with the option of a short-term benzodiazepine for particularly acute episodes. Within 3 months, Mia's panic frequency dropped from weekly to monthly. Her resting heart rate, once elevated during the simplest tasks, had lowered by 10 beats per minute, a quiet, measurable sign that her body was learning to feel safe again. More importantly, she felt empowered. Each technique resembled a tangible lever she could pull to improve her state. Rather than viewing anxiety as an enemy, Mia reframed it as a signal, a messenger alerting her to unmet needs or unresolved challenges. She began journaling each time she felt anxious. What triggered me? What unmet need or boundary is this revealing? Over weeks, patterns emerged: overcommitment, lack of downtime, and avoidance of difficult conversations with professors and friends. Armed with this insight, she implemented new habits: a weekly phone-free study block to minimize distractions, a monthly values check-in to realign priorities, and a standing 15-minute meditation at her desk each afternoon. She also organized a campus workshop on preventing burnout, sharing her story and tools with peers, turning personal struggle into communal support. In time, anxiety's ups and downs became manageable fluctuations rather than life-derailing storms. Mia even ran for student senate, using her platform to advocate for improved mental health resources. What once felt like a weakness became her greatest asset: a deep empathy for others' struggles and a toolkit she could share. Anxiety is a universal human experience, our built-in alarm system doing its job. But when it rings too often or too loudly, we must learn to adjust the volume. Through understanding the biology, classifying symptoms, and applying evidence-based strategies, we can transform anxiety from a stumbling block into a stepping stone. If you see yourself in Mia's journey, know this: you're not alone, and you are far more capable than you believe. Start by acknowledging the alarm without panic. Implement one practice each day and build from there. Every breath you reclaim, every fearful thought you challenge, and every boundary you reinforce brings you closer to a calmer, more resilient you. You've already taken the first step by watching and learning. Now go forward with compassion for yourself. And remember, every step matters.